Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be with you tonight. I want to thank the Whitley Fund for Nature for this great invitation. It is fantastic for me to share with all of you all the things we are doing at the Global Penguin Society to help the penguins in all the planet. Today in this presentation, I'm going to talk about penguins. And that's quite obvious, but I'm going to tell you why penguins are a fragile group of seabird species. I'm going to show you some of the species, their features, and I'm going to talk about their conservation status. And so as David said, I received the Whitley Award in 2010, so it's been 2 years. So in the end of this presentation, I'm going to tell you what we have learned so far, and what we have been able to accomplish with the Whitley Award, and what are our plans now that we receive the Whitley Continuation Award. So if I have to tell you when was the first time I got in contact with a penguin, I would say it was when I was 2 or 3 years old, more or less, and my grandmother used to tell me very nice and warm stories about penguins from a very remote place for me called Patagonia in southern Argentina, which is the place where I live and work now. And I would say that those stories left a very deep message inside of me, because I always felt committed to help penguins. So I decided to get training in the university to be able to help them more and help them better. And when I look back in time, I realized that I was always connected to penguins one way or another, and I owe penguins a lot. Because I even met my wife, Laura, thanks to the penguins. There she is. Thanks for coming. She's joining me tonight. And really, I went to a very remote island in southern Patagonia. I went there to census penguins. And she was there, censusing sea lions. And of course, she wasn't dressed up like that when among the sea lions, as you can imagine. And then we got married and we had our chicks. And soon the chicks were big enough as to join us in the field. This is an image taken in our study area in central Patagonia. And finally, I received the Whitley Award. And I would say that this was monumental for the Global Penguin Society. And it was absolutely spectacular for my work in conservation and also for me personally. The prestige of this award and the presence of Princess Anne lent credibility to our project and to my work, and that allowed us to strengthen our international presence. And after the ceremony, news organizations around the globe picked up our story, and we were able to reach a much broader audience with our conservation message. And personally, I felt that the recognition of the Whitley Award with the presence of Princess Anne is something that my grandmother would be very proud of. So, get ready for the penguin trip. So, as you know, life on Earth, life on this planet, began in the ocean. And the well-being of our planet depends on the health of the ocean. So, we are connected to the oceans in many different ways: evolutionary, emotionally, spiritually, and to a well extent economically. But we have initiated this unprecedented age of alterations to marine ecosystems, and penguins are a group of seabird species that are particularly impacted by this phenomenon. In fact, 60% of the 18 species that exist of penguins in the planet, 60% are considered endangered or vulnerable by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. So let's meet them. Let's meet the penguins first. And penguins are remarkable and very interesting creatures. They breed from the tropics in Galapagos Islands, for instance, south to frozen Antarctica, and they occur across islands and continents in the southern hemisphere. I'm sure you would agree with me that the emperor penguin, this species, this is the most famous species, right? Because it has been featured by BBC documentary films, by some movies like The March of the Penguins, and also by cartoons. Have you seen Happy Feet? Who hasn't? So, as you can see, Happy Feet is an emperor penguin chick. These guys are absolutely amazing because the males, they are incubating their eggs in the middle of the winter in Antarctica with a temperature of 50 degrees centigrade below zero and a wind of 150 kilometers per hour. Can you imagine that? And there they are. So in Antarctica, we have other species, like the chinstrap in the upper left, the Adelie down there, and also the gentoo penguin, which also became quite famous after this movie, Mr. Popper's Penguins. Maybe you've seen this one as well. If you have kids, I'm sure you saw it. So then we have a group of penguins that are crested. They have beautiful crests and colorful eyes and bills. An example of those ones is the northern rockhopper, which is considered endangered by IUCN. It has a population of about 200,000 pairs, but it's endangered because it's been declining dramatically during the last 2 decades. Another crested is the Snares Island penguin. It is vulnerable. They live in the southern part of New Zealand. The population is quite small, 25,000 pairs. And it's interesting because these penguins, they only breed on the Snares Island. So they're very vulnerable because imagine an oil spill. If there is an oil spill, this population can go extinct quite quickly. And the rarest species of penguins of all is the endangered Galapagos penguin. The population is really small. It ranges between 700 and 2,000 pairs, and they are not doing well. So it is not only that 11 of the 18 species are threatened. It is also that during the last 25 years, more and more species have been moved to a more severe conservation status. So let's take a look at this table. In 1988, 12 species were listed as least concern. Here it is shown in green. 6 years later, we started to have 5 vulnerable ones. 10 years later, we had 3 more endangered, and this year we ended up having 5 endangered, 6 vulnerable, 4 near threatened, and only 3 greens, 3 least concerned, out of the 12 we had 25 years ago. But why penguins are so fragile? Why are they suffering so much? Why are the populations declining? And the reason is because they have particular features that make them sensitive. For instance, they don't fly. They are flightless birds, and they have to swim to get to the food. And if the food is no longer there, they have to feed further, and maybe they come back, and the chicks are dead by then. As you can see the map, penguins have colonies in Antarctica, in South America, in South Africa, and also in Australia and New Zealand. Penguins lay only 1 egg or 2 eggs per breeding season, and some species, they take several months to raise their offspring. They also breed in colonies, so they are concentrated in one spot at a particular moment of the year. So they are more vulnerable to some threats like oil spills or diseases, for instance. And penguins can swim hundreds and even thousands of kilometers during their feeding trips and their migration trips. So penguins are all the time exploring very vast areas of the southern oceans. So as a consequence, penguins are very sensitive to all the alterations to the marine ecosystems, and these alterations are caused mainly by climate change, marine pollution, and fisheries mismanagement. Climate change is unequivocal. The Antarctic region is warming much faster than the average rate of the Earth warming. This is causing a change in the pattern of ice formation and melting, which is affecting the availability and also the quality of habitat to breed and also to feed. This has caused the decline of some species, like the chinstrap penguin, that declined 30% in the last 40 years. And this is because these penguins, they feed on krill mainly. Krill feeds on an algae that grows under the ice. Due to climate change, there's no more ice, no more algae, no more krill, no more penguins. But climate change is not only affecting Antarctic species. They also affect temperate species of penguins. because they are increasing the intensity and also the frequency of normal environmental cycles, such as El Niño. And climate change is affecting the availability of food out there in the ocean. The food is no longer where it used to be. And climate change is also, we are registering that it is also causing severe storms at particularly moments of the breeding cycle, causing the mortality of many chicks. Penguins are one of the most visible and conspicuous victims of oil pollution. Oil spills have killed thousands of penguins in 4 continents already and contributed to the decline, the tremendous decline of the African penguin from 1 million pairs in 1920 down to 21,000 pairs in 2010. The image that you are seeing now was taken in 1930 in a Namibia colony, and the same image was taken 10 years ago at the same moment of the year, and there were no more penguins there. Large commercial fisheries are also a threat to penguins. Fisheries have removed enormous numbers of fishes from the southern oceans, and some prey species for penguins are only a small fraction of what they used to be prior to fishing. And this also helped in the decline of the humboldt penguin in Peru and in Chile, that declined from 1.2 million in 1930 to 30 or 40,000 pairs now. But penguins do not only face threats when they are out there in the ocean, but also when they are breeding on land. And those threats are linked to inadequate management of human activities. In this case, we are seeing the yellow-eyed penguin. They live in New Zealand. They are endangered. The population is 1,700 pairs, that's all. And they cannot recover because the core of the population is in an island with introduced predators, such as rats and hogs, wild pigs. And human disturbance can also be a problem. Here we see a colony that is visited by visitors, by tourists, and this human barrier of visitors are not allowing a group of penguins to go and feed their chicks. In the circle, you see the little group of penguins trying to cross this barrier.